Perfect. Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to present here this morning. My name is Robert Fennelly. I'm a Regional Planning Officer with the Southern Regional Assembly. The Southern Regional Assembly submitted the stakeholder consultation process undertaken in preparation of our regional spatial and economic strategy as a transfer of learning to our cohesion partners. Our strategy and role is at the middle tier of the national planning system. We are an essential cog bridging the national strategic outcomes through Project Ireland 2040, the National Development Plan and National Planning Framework, with local policy, especially setting a framework and priorities from the regional perspective for county development plans, local area plans, and local economic and community plans to follow. Both a bottom-up and top-down alignment are necessary. Meaningful consultation was fundamental to the project and was approached as a core tenet of the project team. It was not merely a case of complying with the statutory requirements. The need for collaborative approaches in this middle space across all sectors was very apparent to us in our process. Through consultation, we had an opportunity to build a better understanding of the valuable role of the regional tier in the national planning system. Understanding our challenges and identifying our opportunities are best advised through meaningful participation and engagement with local stakeholders. This is obviously not dissimilar to smart specialization. Also, for those who did engage with us, participation and engagement provided an opportunity to them. This was the first such strategy for the Southern region, a unique opportunity to engage with us in creating a framework to implement the transformative vision for our region under Project Ireland 2040. This was the first time the strategic importance of all areas within our region, urban and rural, are recognised as contributing to this vision. It was also the first time a diverse range of stakeholders from across the Southern region engaged on an equal basis to shape our vision and objectives. This includes national government departments, local government, state agencies, elected representatives, academia, business organisations, community groups and citizens. Now, the National Planning Framework is a disruptive framework, and so too is the process of developing our strategy. It has been disruptive in policy making in Ireland. It encouraged people and organisations to come around the table together for the same objective. Now, in the past, this would have been difficult. It was a new way of policy making and a better way. Key points to make in our transfer of learning to cohesion partners are the importance of a collaborative approach, include a wide spectrum of stakeholders with different agendas, have a participatory policy making process, have meaningful engagement and share the knowledge, have an inclusive and transparent consultation process, build confidence and trust. People outside of policy making must have a role to inform the process and contribute to policy. All these factors, if you like, help to strengthen our strategy and helped us to achieve effective outcomes. This diagram is a summary of our journey, which started in November 2017 to January 2020. But of course, the journey continues. It is still moving through implementation. Our key stages span the initial call for issues to address to the final publication of statutory documents. It included structured technical working groups, working committees, meetings, important role to integrate the role of our elected members, and also the environmental process and assessments which were iterative throughout. Now, this journey has led to the identification of 229 specific regional policy objectives. It's also led to 72 specific objectives for our 3 cities and metropolitan areas of Cork, Limerick, Shannon and Waterford. But what we want to focus on in this presentation are 2 particular aspects. The pre-draft consultation workshops with stakeholders to assist the preparation of the draft, and consultation during the draft itself to inform the final strategy. We'll take firstly the pre-draft consultation workshops. Now, these were held in 2018. We had 4 full-day sessions involving participation by over 200 cross-sectoral stakeholders. It involved the whole team of the Southern Assembly, in preparing for the event and running the event, but we also used an external facilitator for moderation and good timekeeping. Each day had a specific theme. We focused on physical infrastructure as a theme, looking at issues such as how to achieve compact growth in our urban settlements, how to achieve enhanced regional accessibility, sustainable mobility, high quality international connectivity, and the sustainable management of water resources. We had a specific theme for environment and heritage, where we looked at our transition to a low carbon society, sustainable management of resources, and enhanced amenity and heritage. We had a specific theme for the economy, economic themes, looking at a strong economy supported by enterprise, innovation and skills, urban and rural dynamics, and key economic sectors, and a specific theme for social and community, looking at education and health, supporting our diverse population, improved quality of life, and improved well-being for all our citizens. Participants were arranged in mixed sector roundtable groups. Ground rules were provided to set a clear purpose and expected outcomes. Now, there was a positive dynamic with different interests at each table, but each table was tasked with providing the consensus view. So healthy debates ensued at each table. They were lively, and that was positive. The workshop was structured with two specific parts. Part one was the identification of key challenges. Part two, the identification of key solutions. Key questions, prompts, and examples were available to each group to help them along. The participants ranked their top 5 challenges and solutions in feedback sheets, which were collected. Strict time limits were imposed for focused responses. Rapporteurs were nominated from each table, and they gave feedback to the floor at a plenary session, again for a debate and discussion across all the groups. We collected information and recorded the outcome of this event. And following the events, a summary report of each workshop was published and circulated to all attendees. These reports helped to disseminate the aims and outputs achieved under each theme, and they provided a valuable resource to us in preparation of the draft. These are just some images from the events of workshop tables in action. And as you can see, there were packed rooms, each table having a representative from a different pillar, a different interest, a different background, which made sure there was a mix of views and a good debate at each table. Just want to show you in the next image as well, just an example of some simple prompts and slides we would have had on the day to make sure that the main focus of the workshop was always clearly articulated so that we got the outcome through this consultation that we sought. We'll now look at the draft Regional Spatial Economic Strategy consultation. This was held between December 2018 and March 2019. Now, during this time, we engaged in extensive consultation, including online, local media, meetings and events to ensure full access to and engagement with a wide variety of stakeholders. 9 public consultation events were held, and they were hosted over 3 days in February 2019. The events focused on the role for our elected representatives, for the local authorities and key agencies, and especially for the general public. We held them in their 3 cities of Cork, Limerick and Waterford. At each event, the RESIS team presented an overview of the RESIS, but very importantly, we made sure to take the opportunity to communicate how feedback up to that point had helped shape the draft, how the inputs we had received through the workshops had helped shape the draft content so people could see their inputs, stakeholders could see how their inputs were shaping the draft. Of course, it needed refinement, it needed improvement, and was still part of a process, but we were very keen to make sure that where the engagement had fed into the earlier stages of the process, that was very evident to stakeholders, that they could see their recommendations to us, their challenges addressed, their potential solutions and opportunities reflected in the draft content. We used a blend of approaches at this stage. We gave presentations, we allowed open fora for questions and answers and allowed plenty of time for that. We had exhibition areas, networking lunches where we could mix with stakeholders and discuss informally what they think of our draft, encourage submissions. Our team was fully accessible for drop-by advice, for roundtable discussions, and we would have facilitated the need for any particular group that got in touch with us to meet, present, have an opportunity to discuss, all the time encouraging submissions to our process. We benefited hugely from the role of public participation networks. They were representative of the community groups that were nominated, say in terms of local authorities, would have contacts with public participation networks. So we fully engaged with them, and they would have communicated with their communities in turn, to represent views on their behalf, come to our meetings, engage and make submissions. And this was hugely positive, because we really feel through the public participation network we engage with issues for the citizens, issues for local communities at a regional level. We received 205 submissions in total, and these were meaningful, well-focused submissions. This showed us the interest in the region, the interest in the role of our strategy, and the strength of positive engagement. Just some images here again from this phase of our project during the consultation events. I just draw your attention to one image in a purple border there, which is from a local representative, an elected member of a council, who would have attended an event early in the morning, thought it was positive, saw the importance of engagement with us, and would have encouraged her constituents through social media to come down to meet us, engage with us, participate. And there was many incidents and examples of that where stakeholders would have communicated the importance of engaging in our process and to come and meet us and make sure they got a submission in. Now, we strongly feel that engagement was very effective in changing outcomes. It wasn't without its difficulties. We had huge challenges to communicate a cross-regional strategy. We had challenges to communicate a long-term horizon strategy. We're a 12-year strategy, and the National Planning Framework is our journey to 2040. But notwithstanding that, our focus was certainly realigned and strengthened through this level of consultation. We in particular had strengthened focus for three main pillars of our regional strategy: to be the creative and innovative region, livable region, and green region. We achieved buy-in and agreement on the importance of compact growth, high quality, high density development, and the need for urban renewal. We managed to articulate better how the planning system can create conditions for economic growth, and in particular, many stakeholders from early in our process would have been identifying the importance of quality of life and place making as a key ingredient for enterprise development. An important theme raised was the importance of building resilience for external shocks in our region. And back early in the process, Brexit was the big issue on everyone's mind and the huge challenge we were facing, the disruptive challenge. But of course, COVID-19 has come along unexpectedly since then. What's very interesting is that at the early stage of our process, all stakeholders were pointing out the importance of access to education, lifelong learning skills, and the importance of critical infrastructure, especially digital, so we'd have a resilient region and be prepared for external shocks. Learning from each other, our shared strengths, our collective offer as a region, strong support for collaborative initiatives between towns and cities, as Dominic referred to, was a key outcome from the engagement. This came about through the inputs and the recommendations on how we can harness our collective strengths. Prioritising the urgency of climate change with more actions to move to a lower carbon society and economy was a huge theme, and we had significant strengthening in this area. Our environmental strategy, therefore, not only now focuses on protectionism, it also recognises the need to motivate people to move to a lower carbon future and achieve behavioural change. We've strengthened content and objectives around the green economy, for example, quality of life through sustainable infrastructure-led planning, promoting concepts such as walkable and cycling 10-minute city and town neighbourhoods, greater integration of nature-based solutions in urban planning. These are just some examples. We also had a strong push for more innovation for sustainable transport and travel, strengthened objectives for smart and sustainable mobility. In addition to local authorities and transport agencies, all sectors, and including the business sector, academia, and local communities, wanted us to embed the delivery of metropolitan area transport strategies and local transport plans at the regional level, so they're followed through and implemented at the local level. These were seen as game changers for infrastructure-led planning of our urban areas, but importantly, game changers for more sustainable urban mobility and more sustainable urban livability. And we've significantly strengthened the content for sustainable mobility as a result. So as I said, these are just a snapshot of how in-depth consultation helped to shape positive outcomes. And we'd note reports commissioned on regional smart specialisation in Ireland would have cited this extensive bottom-up approach as a foundation for a refreshed approach to S3, and it could be an inspiration for other regions across Europe. Just again highlighting this image that Dominic also showed you for the regional spatial economic strategy, the ability to identify our main pillars, what we stand for, how all our objectives can be aligned under these themes and all the sub-themes from them. We didn't have this start in our process. We evolved this and created this with the inputs, with the feedback, with the engagement. This diagram was only possible with that level of extensive consultation with all sectors involved, and it is very valuable for us in our next phase of implementation and monitoring to identify our priorities and action areas. I just want to give one example to conclude on an example theme of where we get inputs through meetings, through submissions, and to show that we do listen and it does make a difference. So this is an example of a comment raised quite often, and it was raised by the Public Participation Network, so from the communities, that there is much talk about increased population density. A 5 or 10 minute city, town or neighborhood concept where most or all of our everyday services are within easy walk. It's a wonderful concept, but unless there is some detail in exactly what we mean and how this can be achieved, this will just be lip service. So we listened, we considered, more than just putting in an objective to support it. We engaged with our stakeholders for ideas, actions. How can we get behind delivery of this very important objective, this very important concept as an early win in the implementation of our strategy? So we came up with an idea. And that idea came about through collaboration with another Interreg Europe project, the Match-Up project, which was looking at low carbon urban mobility. There was some funding for external expert advice and external partners. So we used that budget to commission a transport specialist to create with us an accessibility and framework report on how you implement sustainable 10-minute city and town concepts. This looked at 3 case study towns in our regions, which were key towns, the towns of Carlow, Ennis and Tralee. It is essentially a toolkit looking at good practice implementation, how you as a local authority or transport agency can go about mapping catchments, identifying the constraints, identifying the solutions and interventions for greater urban permeability to achieve a healthy, sustainable 10-minute and city and town concept. It's a toolkit that can be taken up by other stakeholders, especially in local policy making, a toolkit that can be used for any settlement in the region and be taken on by local authorities. It hits many national and regional objectives for sustainable mobility, compact growth, low carbon future, low carbon economy in society, and because it's improving the livability of urban areas and their placemaking qualities, ultimately a strong economy. This was very well received by stakeholders, and an example there in the top from national media citing the report that it's a concept that could revolutionize towns. So we go from having the objective, our regional policy objective 176 for the 10-minute city and town concept, to a tangible action. And we just wanted to highlight this because it shows it's not just lip service. We don't just listen and say the things that are important to say and good to say. We need to get behind them and drive them and support actions at the local level to deliver on them. So if this theme wasn't impressed on us so much through the consultation phase, we wouldn't have seen it as a priority area or action necessarily. So it does show that engagement can make a difference. You can get involved in policy making and you can influence a positive outcome. So I just want to conclude by saying partnership continues through the implementation and monitoring. So this is the beginning of our journey. The next important stage is implementation and monitoring. We will keep our cross-sectoral approach. We will keep including community inputs in our steering committees and working groups. It leads to creativity, it shakes it up, and it will drive actions at the local level to implement our objectives, because it's at the local level where success or outcomes will be experienced by most and where success will be measured. So I'd like to thank you for listening to the presentation.